Beep beep. What is up, ninjas? My name is Semworld, and happy Memorial Day to those of you guys that live in the United States of America. For those of you serving in the military, for those of you that have lost loved ones that have served, I have the utmost respect for you guys. But thank you guys for serving, and I hope you guys have a nice Memorial Day with your family or in any way that you decide to celebrate it. Now, today we are going to be going over the low end of your track, the kick and the bass correlation, making them sound good together, making them mesh well together. These tips are going to be here to help you guys out, and these tips I've learned from YouTube videos, mentors, and reading articles online. Now, with these tips, guys, it doesn't mean you need to use all of them on a track. You might need one, or you might need all of them in a certain track. It's like mix and mash, knowing when to put it on, when to do it. Sometimes you won't need to do any of this, and sometimes you will. But I guarantee you that one of these tips will eventually find its way into your own productions. Now, the first tip I have is the kick. A lot of you guys will go and pick any kick, and then you will try and make it fit your track, and I believe that's not the way to go about it. You want to hear the track and go, what kind of kick would fit it? What kind of kick do I need? If you don't know, then just mix and mash until you find the right one, because sometimes a track won't have that vibe that you want if you don't have the right kick. For instance, here, this is the track I have, and we're going to use it as an example, and then we're going to put these kicks I just picked out of these packs, and it's going to sound like this. So this is that kind of track, guys. It's kind of like a Moomba poppy vibe to it. People are going to be on the dance floor grinding, twerking, sexual tension up. Babies are going to be born that day, and I'll be glad to, baptize them if they ever ask me, like, yo, song, dude, that's how I found my wife. But anyways, getting the kick right, is the main thing. If the kick isn't right, there's no babies made. So that kick works well because it's dumpy. It goes with the vibe of the track. It's a very dirty kind of track. However, if I switch the kick up to more of a thinner one, more of a clean one, more of a punchy one, it doesn't have the same vibe. Okay, it's a thin kick, and it's a good kick in its own right, but it just doesn't work for this song. So this is what we had before, and guys, I've had mentors that literally did mixing for some of the big guys, and they told me, yeah, sometimes, I would switch out the kick, and then I would just send it back, and they would be like, yo, this sounds 10 times better. What did you do to the track? Like, guys, pay attention to the kind of kicks you're using, the length of it. If it's dumpy, is it long? Do you need a long kick? Do you need a short kick? Okay, for instance, here, this kick, it's a good kick, but it's too clean for what we're trying to do. For instance, here, like, we got this. This kick is just more of a dumpier guy, it's more of a buff guy, just like girls like some skinny guys, some buff guys. Same thing here. You got to find the right one. Here, if I use a long kick, it just doesn't work. This one's fighting more with the bass because it's just too big. It's too long. So in this track, more of a smaller, dumpier kick is the way to go. Now, if we hear that over this, and that's it. That's game over. In essence here, the kick, I didn't really do much to it. It was in stereo. So I monoed it, went to the left here. The left side, it sounded better. You want to do that sometimes if you have a stereo kick. I don't know why it was in stereo. But once we have that, a little bit of the low ends removed. Sorry, the highs, there was a nasty frequency there, and you're set to go. So essentially, we wanted, again, a dumpy kick. So make sure you pay attention to your kicks. It makes the biggest of differences. Now, the next step is going to be for those of you guys that always ask me this question. Yo, Sen, I have this track, and it sounds great, but whenever I hit these two notes in the bass progression of my track, you're making a melodic one, you can't hear it. It's not as big as the one in G and all that. What do I do? So for instance, here we have a track, and it's an F minor. So F, then we got that A flat going up to that A flat there. And then we go down to the depths of hell when it comes to EDM scales, okay? And what I mean by that is if you're in C and if you're in D sharp, that sub's not going to be as strong as up here, for sure. So what do? Well, the biggest thing to do, guys, is going to be to add more mid-lows to your track. Now, the question is, how do you do that? So a lot of you guys will have something like this. You'll get rid of the mid-lows here. You'll have just the lows, which sounds good in its own right. It's sounding good. Now the shit hit the fan. You're like, wait, not as strong. Well, first things first, guys, is when you make a bass, if you're going to be going down that low, a square wave is going to be more of your better friend. Squares tend to have more mid-lows than a saw and a sine wave. You can also go with a triangle wave. The next thing you can do is you can add a layer to your bass that is up an octave. And you just want to mix it together. You want to make sure this doesn't have any low end, though. That's the key thing. However, if you're a sound designer, you can do this yourself. Just add a saw going up. That's going to give you a little bit more of those mid-lows. You can see the difference. Now, if I get rid of that saw, it's sounding good. But now once you hit that low, add it in, you get that nice kind of just, you get the sound just a little bit more like fuller. So that's what you need to do. You need to capitalize on the mid-lows. Now, here we added a Hip Hop's Puncher O preset from Saturn. However, it's modified, and I'll show you guys what I did to it. But this is pretty much boosting and saturating our mid-lows here. Between 60 to 300, which is your mid-lows. And it's doing a clean tube distortion on it at 42%. And that's about it. The mix is at 50%, so you got a little bit of parallel going on. And then the level is boosted on it, so it's going up. So what in essence, the purpose of this is going to be to saturate those mid-lows so that note that when you go down to that C, still sounds fat. And in those scenarios, the sub isn't going to be taking up a lot. It's not going to be driving. It's going to be your mid-lows. So once we put that on, and we'll go here and turn it on and you can see the difference that it makes, okay? So that's going to be the second tip, guys. If you have tracks that are doing this, and again, you're like, I don't know what to do. It sounds great, but that low end goes to shit. Once I hit that, that's how you fix it. You have to saturate the mid-lows. You have to give a bit more. Here, I just have a mono and an R comp to compress. And then just the side chain. The side chain is just going to be a standard side chain. And once you have that... Now, if I get rid of everything just so you guys can hear, let's make this more a little bit more like how we would have it. Now let's fix it. A bit more mid-lows. Give it that R comp. No difference, man. Tip number 2, saturate your mid-lows, guys. Get that layer up there. This is a little bit more advanced stuff in the sense that it's not advanced in the fact that you're doing crazy stuff. It's more advanced in like, who the fuck would have thought to do that? But again, now you know, and whenever you run into that issue, you know what to do. Now, this last tip is going to be for you guys that ask me this question all the time. Yo, Sen, I have this track. Kick and bass sound good, but it doesn't have that tight feel like the professionals do. It doesn't sound tight. I want it to sound tight. I don't want it to sound loose. I want the bass and the kick to unify. Be one together. What do I do? Well, what you're going to be doing, guys, and this is the tip that a lot of mixing engineers use, and you're essentially going to be compressing the crap out of your low end. How much you do? Well, that's going to be up to your ears. That's going to be up to how it sounds like, okay? But essentially what we want to do is you want to mesh the kick and the bass together in the low end. So right now, if we hear this, that's how it sounds like. With it off, on, so you can hear the bass just comes up a little bit and it meshes with the kick. Now, you're going to hear it more when you solo that low band. So if I take it off, we put it on. Now, as you heard, when we have this thing off, the kick sounds loose. It's like boo, 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 doing its own thing, while the low end is boom, boom. When we put it on, the kick and the low end make babies. They get along. They're working together. So in essence, what's happening there is we're just compressing it and we're tightening up the low end. Now, in order to do this, you want to pretty much have your kick and your bass be in a bus, and you want to compress it together with a multi-band compressor. We don't want to go with a standard compressor because we want to just get the lows to sound tight. You know, everything else on top, we don't want to mess with that. However, I have heard of people that they just put a normal comp on top and they compress the kick and bass together. That's also a good thing. But I find this works a little bit better where it doesn't ruin the top end, the mids of the kick, and it just focuses on that bottom end. So how do you set this up? So if we go here, let's open up an MB. And it's going to be the Fat Filter one. You can do this with any multi-band compressor, by the way. You know, let's just get this here, delete that, and we're going to bring in that MB here. First things first is you want to set up, you know, the band, and you just click and you go, and now you do a crossover. Here, it's up to you where you want it. You can go up to the mid-lows. Or you can just target that low end. So for this one, I decided to go around 200 hertz, okay? From here, when this thing is on and we have it solo, now we can hear it. We want to pull down on it. You really don't want to see much movement with this, by the way. We're not trying to preserve dynamics here. We're not trying to add sustain. We might be trying to add sustain, but we just really want it to be tight together. Once we have it there, you're going to notice you're going to lose a lot of low end. In essence, compression is lowering volume down and bringing those dynamics smaller. Okay, so what we're going to do here now is we're just going to make it up. So now when we take it off, so in essence, I don't want you guys to go overboard with this and pull it more and go, damn, dude, this thing is making my bass loud and thumpy, because that's not what it's doing. That's a misconception. A lot of people go, compression makes shit loud, and it does, but you got to understand why it does it. It's lowering down the dynamic range, you know, from this maybe to like a little bit smaller. But this is going to give you more of that tight feel that you want. You can use this at any, but this is going to be a low-end technique you can use, aggressively compressing your low. And once we have that and we hear that with pretty much the MB, just take it. Okay, maybe we can decrease a little bit, not too much, but just a tiny. So with it off here, and that's game over, guys. So those are going to be 3 tips that I feel are really going to help you guys out. And the last and final tip I'm going to give you guys, I've already shown on this channel, and that is going to be to utilize span. Now, what we want to do with span, guys, when you have your track loud already where it's going to be at, you want to make sure that we're hitting that negative 30 dB range with the low end, okay? And the reason for this, it's not like a number I made up, but it's a number that I've seen come up a lot when you reference other people's tracks. When you reference, let's say for this track, a good reference would be DJ Snake, Dylan Francis. The low end never goes above negative 30, and if it does a slight bit. If you look at a hip-hop song, same thing. If you look at a tech house track, same thing. Now, the low end can be lower down here if your track isn't that loud, but if you're trying to get loud like most of the people are, like -7 LUFS, and here we're going to be using WLM for that, your low end, you don't want it to go above that, so you want to be around there. So if we hear this again, so I'm seeing this, and you can kind of see it's almost there, but you also have to keep in mind I'm at -10 LUFS. Now, if I make this just a tad bit louder here, if I go into Ozone 7, which isn't my final master, but it's just one that I like to have on music just so that I can feel the energy. So you want to make sure that hits there, because watch, if I make this bigger, you can see what it does. So that's going to be kind of like a quality control for you. Now, again, I get this question asked, Joe said, I saw that video and my track's all the way down here. And what do I do then? In essence, you want to look at the correlation between your lows and your highs and your mids. You know, it's okay for them to be like kind of the same, but you never want the low end to be up here and then have everything down here, because then once you master it, it's going to sound like crap, okay? But in essence, this trick only works when your track is mastered. But with that being said, guys, I hope you have a happy Memorial Day. I hope these tips and tricks help you guys out in your next production. You know, try it out, see what works, see what doesn't. Because at the end of the day, these tips are here to help you guys out. If one of them doesn't work out, try the other. If none of them work out, oh well. If some of them work out, I'm glad, you know, these are tips that are going to help you guys out in just getting that professional sound. Well, I hope you guys liked the track I played for you guys. You know, this is going to be a track. We're trying to get a vocalist on it. And we'll see what happens with it, guys. But again, thank you guys for watching this video. Take care and get your low end right. Peace out.